fantasy football drafts coming up and the season upon us in the next few weeks. Here's a few quarterbacks I would target going into my drafts over the next few weeks. The first guy is Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tom Brady went to the Bucks last season and he won the title right away, his first Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. And last season, it took him time to get things going with this Buck team. About the first 8 to 10 weeks, it was a feel-out period, but he still finished the season with a huge year: 46, 333 yards, 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 6 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So Tom, terrific. He didn't miss a beat last season. He was on his A game. And the same cast of characters are coming back once again here for this Tampa Bay Buck offense. They still got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin came back, Antonio Brown. You got the Gronk on there another year as well. You got the running backs and Fournette and Ronald Jones. So this Buck team, they're prime and ready to win their second title in a row. And Tom Brady, he didn't miss a beat last season. And now another season comfortable in Bruce Arians' system. I think Tom Brady has another huge season for fantasy owners in the Bucks. And right now he's been drafted anywhere 5th to the 7th round in fantasy drafts. And I think it's good value. He's got one of the best offenses in the league. And right now you can't go wrong with Brady. Yes, it's a possibility he could break down at his age of 44 years old. But there's been no signs of it over the last few seasons here. And he's a quarterback I definitely want on my roster. And he definitely can make a difference for your fantasy team. I know last season, fortunately, he helped me win a fantasy league with him at the helm. So right here, Tom Brady's definitely a quarterback I'm going to target heading into my drafts. The next quarterback's Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jalen Hurts, he was pretty impressive to me here over the last few weeks of the season where he played for this Eagle team. And this guy, he's got wheels. He's got a pretty decent IQ with the quarterback position. And he reminds me of a Deshaun Watson a little. Obviously not as big as an arm as Watson, but this guy definitely could go out there and play some football. So last season, in the few games he started, 1,061 pass yards, 6 passing touchdowns, 354 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns, and even quarter pass for 3 yards. So right here, Jalen Hurts, he's going to get you a lot of bogus points on the side of things this season, where he's going to get a lot of rushing yards. They're projecting him this year 3,685 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 845 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns. So those are pretty good projections. And he's a player going anywhere from the 6th to the 8th round, which I think is a pretty good target to get Jalen Hurts. The NFC, they don't have great defenses, especially in the NFC East. I don't think there's really one defense I would be that scared of if I'm an opposing quarterback. I know the Washington football team is a pretty decent D, but still Jalen Hurts with his wheels can make a lot of plays, and those rushing yard points are big for fantasy owners when it's all said and done. That could be an extra 7 to 8 fantasy points a week with the rushing yards, or if a quarterback gets a rushing touchdown. So Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to be good this season. I know his weapons aren't the greatest, but he's got Jalen Rager, you got Devontae Smith, you got Travis Fulgham, who was a breakout wide receiver last season. Even though I know it was with Carson Wentz, you still got Miles Sanders back there, Boston Scott. So right here, Hurts, I think he can make things happen. And he's a quarterback I definitely would want to target in my leagues. And hopefully I can land him in a couple fantasy leagues this season. The next quarterback's Big Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk about another veteran here to target. Just like Tom Brady, Big Ben, I still think he has it. And this guy, we thought he was going to retire a few seasons ago. But right here, he's going out there once again this year. And he's trying to prove people wrong and trying to get another title under his belt, winning a Super Bowl before he goes out. And this Pittsburgh offense is stacked, no doubt about it. Big Ben last season, 3,803 yards, still 33 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, 11 rushing yards, and 2 two-point conversions. Obviously, Ben's up there in age. A lot of injuries throughout his career, wear and tear. He's not going to run the football anymore, but he still has a big arm. He still has a good receiving core where he's got 3 good receivers in Chase Claypool. I think he's going to have a monster season. You got Juju Smith. I know he had a down year last season, but he re-signed. And also, you got Deontay Johnson, who's one of the best positions in the league. You got Eric Ebron at tight end, and now you got this workhorse rookie, Najee Harris, at running back. So I think Big Ben, he's definitely a sleeper as well this season. Coming into the season, they're ranking him the 152 range. So he's a quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, that you could get very late in your drafts, anywhere from the 12th to the 14th round range. So if you want to wait on quarterback late into your drafts this season, Big Ben is a guy you definitely could go out there and get. And I know he starts some of the seasons off slow, but he has so many weapons on his team. He's a guy that's hard not to target going into your fantasy drafts this upcoming season here. The next quarterback's Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. So Herbert, he came on the scene last season after Tyrod Taylor got a punctured lung after an injection before a game. And ever since then, I believe it was week 2 or 3, Herbert had the spot start, and he took the reins from there and finished with a great season. 4,336 pass yards, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 55 rush attempts, 234 yards, 5 touchdowns rushing, and a 2-point conversion and fumble loss. So Herbert, he's going about 6th, 7th round as well in fantasy drafts. And there's so many talented quarterbacks going into the drafts this season here. And it'll be good if you could land one of these top 10, top 15 QBs. And I'm going to have quarterback rankings come out over the next couple weeks before some of the drafts and before the season starts, obviously, here. So this season for the Chargers, they project 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 4,500 pass yards here for Justin Herbert. And that's a great season if he could put those numbers under his belt here in his second season in the NFL. This Charger team, they're probably going to be trailing a lot of games once again this season where Herbert's going to throw and come from behind. And the only thing with Herbert, the last 4 or 5 games of the season last year, he wasn't putting up those monster fantasy games like he did the first about 10 weeks when he was the starter. But I still believe in him. I still think he's going to be good this season. And he's got good weapons. He's going to have Austin Eckler there hopefully the whole season if he don't get injured again this year out of the backfield, where we know he's one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league. You got Jared Cook at tight end now instead of Hunter Henry, a little bit of a downgrade. You still got Keenan Allen over there, one of the better wide receivers in football. So he's got good weapons and he's got a good arm, and he's only in his second year, so sky's the limit here for Justin Herbert. And he's definitely a quarterback I'm going to target. And the 5th and final quarterback I would target going into fantasy drafts this season's Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans. So this Titan team, they're locked and loaded and ready to go and try to make big noise here in the AFC. They got close a couple times of getting to the Super Bowl over the last few seasons. Obviously losing to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship 2 seasons ago. But now you got Julio Jones on that roster to go with A.J. Brown. That's a crazy 1-2 combo if you're ever going to see one here in the NFL. So they're projecting Ryan Tannehill this season, 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 233 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. And last season for Tannehill, it was a great year for him. 3,819 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 266 rushing yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns. So he had 40 touchdowns total last season as Tannehill. And that number's going to go up, I believe, this season. And this team, they're loaded. You got one of the best running backs, if not the best in the league. You got 2 of the top 10 wide receivers on your roster here. So this team's going to be great. And Ryan Tannehill, he's going at good value right now, anywhere from the 7th to the 9th round in fantasy leagues. And it's a slam dunk get, I think, at that ADP average to get him on your team, especially with those weapons. So that's a few quarterbacks I'm going to target and try to draft here on draft day going into your fantasy drafts in the next couple weeks.